The clock is ticking on a possible government shutdown. The U.S. government runs out of money at midnight on Tuesday if lawmakers cannot reach a deal to keep the government open. With just a few days to find a compromise, President Trump and congressional Democrats are locked in a stalemate over the GOP's current government funding plan. Federal workers, meanwhile, are bracing for the potential government shutdown and the possibility of mass layoffs. Joining now to talk more about this looming shutdown is Max Cohen. He's a congressional reporter for Punchbowl News. Max, great to talk with you about all of this. Let's start here. According to some sources, Speaker Johnson says he may keep the House in recess next week, even if government funding lapses on Tuesday. That's not, as we understand, historically what usually happens in these situations. Can you break down what the tactic is there and what it could mean for the House Speaker?
Yeah, this is all about House Republicans playing hardball here. Of course, last week, the House passed a continuing resolution to fund the government for 7 weeks. And now that measure went on to the Senate, and Senate Democrats killed that. So for Speaker Mike Johnson, his perspective is, we've done our job in the House. We've passed the bill. Now it's the Senate's turn. So by keeping his members on recess, he's trying to force Senate Democrats to fold here and support this Republican plan. Of course, as you know, those Senate Democrats say they're going to hold firm and reject that bill unless there are major health care changes to that bill.
Well, meanwhile, Max, the White House is now threatening to use a shutdown as the pretense for enacting mass layoffs, potentially. Democrat leadership, they're brushing that off as a meaningless threat, essentially. But is there real concern behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think if you talk to a lot of congressional Democrats, like I've been doing the past couple days, they're very concerned about these mass layoffs. Some reports said at the EPA, 90% of staff could be fired under these plans proposed by the Trump administration. But publicly, Democrats are saying, look, Donald Trump and his administration are already doing things which they feel are extreme. And the threat of these mass layoffs to them is not worth giving into Republican demands. This is like their only point of leverage, government funding, right? And Democrats say, if we cannot use this bill to get healthcare changes, then we have no other opportunities all year. That's why they're holding firm at this point.
Max, once again, we are about to enter this week playing this game with real consequences, by the way, of, okay, if there's a shutdown, who will be blamed? Obviously, Republicans control all the branches of government, but it may be the Democrats who can't provide the votes to pass a bill to keep the government open. So I guess from your perspective right here, what is at stake for both of these parties?
I think for Democrats, they're playing this game looking at their left-wing voting base. Back in March, when Chuck Schumer and some of his allies voted with the Republicans to keep the government open, there was a mass revolt among the activist class, the grassroots, the Democratic base. They said, all we want is our leaders to fight, and they could not even fight on this government funding debacle. So what's happening now is Democrats, they think their voters want them to fight and at least force a government shutdown standoff. But if you look at the Democrats, what they're saying also is, look, Republicans control the White House, the House, the Senate. Democrats believe that Republicans will be the ones to bear the blame for this because of their unified control of government.
Well, again, it's just fascinating. To your point about bringing up what happened earlier this year, Chuck Schumer really took the arrows from a lot of progressives by saying, listen, this would not have been good for any of us. Does it seem like we're going to hear that kind of language from Chuck Schumer in the next 72 hours?
No, he's completely changed his tune now from when you look back at March. Back in March, Schumer was saying, listen, a shutdown would be worst case scenario. It would allow Trump to fire people. It would allow Trump to do even more illegal things in his mind. But even with the Trump administration, as you just laid out, giving plans to do mass layoffs, Schumer is still saying, we want to force this fight. So it's a very different Democratic leadership because they're very aware of what Democratic base wants. And again, all they're saying is they want fighters. They're not happy with their leaders who associate with the establishment. And even with these potential negative repercussions, they're willing to have this fight.
Quite a showdown boiling in Washington, D.C. Max Cohen, thank you so much for your time and insight. Appreciate it.